Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Challenge Series episode 105 has arrived. It is very hard to find appropriate time to commentate a video in the house that I'm not living in because it seems like for half of the day I have to be super quiet, and the other half of the day the TV upstairs is very not quiet. So, finding that middle ground where I can safely commentate a video without a bunch of background noise, but also without worrying about waking up people who are asleep, it's really hard to find. But luckily, the TV on upstairs is not being manned by my grandma and grandpa, so it's at a normal level. That therefore doesn't travel down a flight of stairs. So I have this time to record. Week 105, just hot off of the Sunday Cup. And we head to Fuji for a 640 class event. As you can also probably tell, I have a new microphone. I'll probably be switching back to the other one at some point in the episode, if for no other reason than for my own comparison to actually tell the difference between the two. So somewhere around like race 2 or 3, I might suddenly sound different, and I may or may not go back to the original sound. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and figure out what this one sounds like as we get into the first race. And we are green from Fuji. And that truck sticks out so much, especially because it's the only big vehicle on the grid. If there were more than one, it wouldn't be as bad, but Vert Whaler is the only truck here. And we are on board with Axel Valentine, who takes turn 1 conservatively. Privilege you have if you start at the back. You're already in last, can't get any worse. I heard contact up ahead. It remains to be seen if that was meaningful. Axel tries the outside of his teammate, Natsuki, and clears the move into 17th around Tony Berry, almost cut off by Nazang. He's got some momentum rolling now. He's already passed 4 cars in a handful of turns. Black Stallion Motorsports, hot off of their championship victory. Natsuki, the winner of the Sunday Cup, back there running now in 19th. Someone tells me her still 80 is not as good as her 86, and she's now being passed by Modesto to be placed in last. Axel down the inside of multiple cars, gets Pepper Mills easily, and shoots her on the outside of the Gulf from Ichigaya into 14th. Already effectively through 1/3 of the field, and we haven't even completed a lap of Fuji yet. Near the front, we do have 2 new vehicles. The first is the Nakamura SI7. Apparently it's like a local custom specialty of the new driver, Monty Jensen. I assume his full name is not covered. He hails from Paradise City, which, despite sounding like something you'd use to describe, say, I don't know, Los Angeles, is its own city. And a lot of the people that are there are familiar with the old Burnout World Tour. He is here as he was a friend of, or not was, still is, a friend of one Jake Downey, who was also in the Burnout World Tour, but he did not hail from Paradise City like Jensen does. And then in 5th place, Samuel Jansen, not to be confused with Jensen, despite being literally 2 letters different. As we see here in the background, the battle of muscle cars, Axel Valentine getting to 6th place over Taro Kitano. Jansen has brought a 68 Charger to the fray. Even though he usually prefers things like Plymouths, he's had a hard time tracking one down lately. The most he found was a really pricey offer for an XNR Giha, but that's not really his style, and I can't say I particularly blame him. That thing looks really weird. Anyway, Axel Valentine up to 6th place already. The lead is within sight. Chika Takami is currently heading a train of now 6 vehicles, almost 7, though Zomi's not quite in the train. On the outside goes Valentine, and he gets a huge exit out of the last turn. He'll turn that into momentum against Jensen, and possibly against my dad. Indeed, he will. Can he get to Kami for good measure? Can he just take the lead all in one fell? Oh my lord, the difference in speed. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say so. And gets the braking just about right. And off he fucks. Axel Valentine into the lead with basically 2 whole laps left to go in the rain. Jansen and Large are currently fighting big time though. They are not done running nose to tail. But I think Jansen's going to get back away with 5th place. Otaro got caught sleeping on the brakes by multiple Mercury drivers, but Kotori is going to be the one closer, down the inside of the not Plymouth Roadrunner. And that might be a clear, yeah, and she's going to force Taro offline, which allows Maki to also clear. Wow, he's mugged by 2 Mercury drivers, almost got passed by a 3rd, all in one fell swoop. Taro, he got caught lacking right there, lacking braking. Maki almost snuck ahead of her own teammate in the chaos, but Kotori managed to hang on. Ellie goes down the inside of the muscle car. You go to the Gran Turismo 2, and I'm just calling it the Plymouth muscle car, even though it's not actually Plymouth. However, Ellie's top speed is severely lacking in comparison to that Plymouth Dodge thing, and she will not stay there for too long. At the front, oh, Jansen and Jensen fighting. And John Large is going to get himself into the mix for a brief moment before the Charger's acceleration carries him away from the Datsun. Can he get back up to that SI7? Or will Jansen be stuck in 5th? That is not going to be confusing at all. Axel has pulled a pretty healthy lead, not hefty. Pretty healthy lead here. I'd say probably 2.5, 3 seconds in hand as he breaks for the chicane once more. The hairpins you'd think would be where he loses a lot of his time, but he's able to somehow manage that thing's throttle application just right and not lose too much time to the 4-wheel drive Impreza behind. He's losing time, no doubt, but maybe not as much as I'd probably expect that he would. And one more turn to go for the Mach 1 driver. Black Stallion's momentum continues as a good last turn for Valentine is going to put this one pretty well out of Chica's reach. Over the line, Axel Valentine will win the first race of episode 105 here from Fuji. Chica 2nd, my dad 3rd. 2 solid debuts for the 2 new guys, 4th and 5th. Well, new car for Jansen, new driver in Jensen. And then it's 7, 8, 9, 11 for the rest of Mercury. Just for Mercury as a whole, really. I think they're the only ones here. But, yeah, Axel continues his team's momentum despite him not even participating in the Sunday Cup because he doesn't even have a vehicle in that category. But all's jovial down there at the at the Black Stallion shop, even if their other driver also came in dead last with what I understood to be some engine problems. So that might be worth, might want to fix that. Obviously. No shit. It is a cloudy day at Tokyo as we get ready for the second round of episode 105. The Tokyo East layout will play host to the 715 category here at Sunset. Hopefully, we avoid a bunch of damaged cars, because Tokyo is pretty good at doing that, especially the mess of turn 1 and the final hairpin. Lots of missed braking points result from them, and as a result, usually some damaged cars and mildly infuriated race drivers. It seems to be a plague of this circuit, and yet it seems like this track gets some of the highest attendance out of any that the Challenge Series goes to. I don't get it, personally. Maybe it's the ones hoping to survive the attrition, only to get caught right up in it. Seems like a waste of effort to me. But we got a full grid of 20 anyway, so here we are. And we are green from the Tokyo Expressway. Honoka with four-wheel drive advantages storms off the line. She's gonna run away with it. That distance is much needed safety, I would say, as we all head out of the tunnel towards the first corner. And oh my word, Brian Lace is screeching ahead of the other cars. I didn't think that Mono would be keeping up here. Sure, it's driven by Captain Falcon, but I figured they'd be topping out a lot sooner into the first braking zone. Oh, I see smoke kicked up. Falcon's got damage. Who doesn't have damage? That's probably the shoulder lift, honestly. I see Sam's teammates Pugachev and Valentine have some contact. And our onboard driver is not you. It is Thrasher in the Mach 40, as he calls it. The modified Voss Mustang that apparently beat all of Tokyo and Nagoya and Yokohama. He's not one to embellish normally, but I don't really know if I take that as his value. But he is in 5th place already after just about a half a lap of racing, and half the cars in front of him are damaged, so it's only going to get easier to pick up the next 2 places, because they'll literally overtake themselves, essentially. And also Rain behind him has damage. There are 2 debuting cars in this race. We've already seen one of them as Ice is going to go for a sneaky move down the inside of the NSX. Barely gets that stop for the hairpin. And a calculated move from the calculated billionaire that'll put the Diablo into the race lead. I'm just going to wait until all of the cars are out of the pits to go over the 2 new cars that are racing. They're not new drivers, just new vehicles. As the plethora of vehicles storm down the front stretch, doing well in excess of 200 miles per. Thrasher doing 230 up to turn 1, 232 as he applies the brakes. Curtis knows he has a hard time getting that stop, but this time he has a much easier time. Ice did not. I heard him slide the tail out a bit there. Yeah, so 7 cars made it through the first of 4 laps with no damage dealt to their car. That's a third of the field. See what I mean? And 3 of those lucky drivers are Black Stallion members. Go figure. Or, no. 2 that are and 1 that's former. I keep forgetting Sam's as a team now. Sam's Squad. Sam's Club. I don't know. Why didn't they call it that? I guess it's probably copyright law. Through the middle part of the lap, Thrasher has closed massively on that Lamborghini. He's going to go for a move right here, as a matter of fact. Strike while the iron's hot. Ice tries to hang it on the outside, instead just finds a wall, not a railing. I think with that little bit of uncharacteristic incompetence, Thrasher will seize the race lead and look to get away with things. But Ice didn't take damage from that. And if he can make a good hairpin, he might have slipstream benefits into 1. As we head onto the incredibly long front straightaway, which clocks in at over a mile long. You can see from Ice's onboard camera, he is closing on that cracked out Mustang. .220 miles per as he exits the tunnel and barely manages to keep the thing pointed straight over the elevation change there. He's not close enough. 229 and everything, but that just doesn't get him up to that crazy Mustang. Honoka is somewhere slightly in the distance, just kind of wishing she could keep up, but that NSX doesn't have the horsepower to match either of these cars. As for the debuting drivers, one of them is leading amongst cars that took damage on lap 1. A very expensive decision from Nico has netted her a Lexus LFA. One of the noisiest supercars, much to the pleasure of people who wanted it in the video game for a very long time. And Lexus is technically Toyota, so Nico felt that it was in her wheelhouse to pick one up when she saw a listing for one. I don't know why the heck somebody would be selling this thing, but here we are, I guess. And the other new vehicle is Joe Moore in a Dodge Challenger Demon with a livery reminiscent of an old Trans Am race car from the 70s. Lots of power in this thing, so it's a shame it got bodied on lap 1, because I'm sure this thing would be very effective at a track like this. Meanwhile, checking back in with the leaders, and it's kind of the same story as on the previous lap. Thrasher has about a second ahead of Ice, but the Diablo is picking up slipstream again. And this time he seems to be marginally closer than he was in the previous time of asking. This is the final lap though, so we'll see if Ice gets desperate or if he just settles for second. Mach 40 does have some pretty weak brakes. He's gonna go for it. And Thrasher just kind of lets it happen. Ice overestimates the braking zone, though. He slides into the outside wall. Now we are too wide for the lead, with 1 lap remaining in the event. Diablo better drive, Mustang better power, but also the worst line. The outside line here doesn't get you too far. Not at high speed turn. Oh, Thrasher matches with some late braking of his own around the outside of the Canadian driver. They're still too wide, but they leave each other almost an entire lane in between them, thus showing the respect these drivers have for each other, in spite of their very different backgrounds. Nearly contact there, but Ice is able to avoid it. Still bumper to bumper heading up the off-ramp. But I think Ice has lost that battle. He's still within striking distance of the Mustang, though. But he didn't get much of a run out of that previous turn. He's not going to be close enough. All Thrasher needs to do is hit his braking spot here. He has precisely done that well enough. Pulling himself out of the hairpin at maximum velocity onto the front straightaway. The unknown amount of horsepower that this Mustang is put to, well, I think Thrasher knows, but it's used all of it up here at Tokyo Expressway. Over the start-finish line, victory for Japan's Black Stallion. Brian Ice a very close second place. Honoka a not-so-close third place. Natsuki brings it home fourth, as her and the rest of the top 7 just avoid the early race chaos to bring home solid results. And Nico wins amongst damaged cars, finishing 8th, which wouldn't be terrible, minus the asterisk of was involved in a collision at the first turn. That'll wrap things up for Tokyo Expressway. But for our third race of the episode, it'll be something completely different. Why did the thing have to fade away, I mean? It'll be something completely different. And I told you it was going to be something completely different. This is a snow track, obviously. With a lot of negotiating with myself and with, well, between me and a few other Canadian people, including, luckily, basically, we managed to convince Brian Ice to turn one of his ski resorts near the Canadian Rocky Mountains into an ice track. And that is what we are now looking at. Lake Louise here in the Canadian Rockies is a brand new snow rally circuit, which means that I guess now we have to refer to this category as the off-road category, or the special conditions category, as Thrasher hinted. Or just the SC class, which is shorter, but off-road class seems more official. This is technically a rallycross circuit, so it only allows 16 cars. I guess ICE couldn't spring 4 more grid slots. And it is time for snow racing in the Challenge Series. It's taken 105 weeks of competition to get to the point where we now have an ice race. And I know quite a few drivers on this grid are beyond elated for that fact. And one of them, sneaking around the outside of literally the whole running order, is my dad, who, has a very specific spot in his mind for rally racing. And being Minnesotan, he kinda lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes driving in the snow for at least 4 months out of a year. Other ones is kind of really just the whole top 3, really. Sami Rantanen and Yuki Utsuki, who literally spent most of their early racing careers racing in the Hokkaido Rally, on snowy mountains. Yuki actually being born in those mountains for good measure. These two are going to be having a whale of a time here in the snow, and probably know exactly what to do. That said, there has to be a mention made for the truck users, the pickup trucks that are entering in this event. As well, the other previously named drivers will have the advantages as far as skills and knowledge of how to race on snowy roads. These trucks have the very big advantage of ground clearance and the horsepower. This track has a pretty long front straightaway and a couple of pretty big hills that trucks are going to be very good at with the added power that they are granted by the special conditions classes specialized set of balancing as it were. And we can see all of that power on display as Riho Futaba is going to basically eat that Evo alive. And my dog is going to have his teeth meltdown of the weekend, I think. My dad is just over here having the time of his life, throwing that Subaru around like it's nobody's business. Riho's into third, and I'm sitting in 8th. There are some drivers who have absolutely no idea how to drive in snow. I'm surprised Colin is doing this poorly, considering he has done more than his fair share of snow and ice rallies in rallycross events. But he's, excuse me, he's not having the best run at the moment. I have the same kind of benefit as my dad does. I've lived on snowy roads for basically my whole life. So I've got basically 22 years of dealing with snow in November and sometimes even October. So I know practical application when it comes to this kind of thing. Even if I've never really ridden a pickup truck under those conditions, it still counts. Well, that's why he's freaking out. Riho is now looking for second place on Yuki Utsuki. As we look around, the sun is definitely setting, and with the way that the lighting is here at Lake Louise, you don't see that every day. A view like that is, yeah, that's unique to this track. The replay cameras do a piss poor job of showing that, so I had to flip the camera myself to show it off. The truck moves into second place. Riho doesn't really have any applicable, nice lights, any really knowledge of snow racing, but it just seems like whatever situation this girl finds herself in, she can just somehow adapt to it. Oh, a Corvette-powered Miata? We take those. driving on snow when I spent my whole life in Tokyo. Oh, we take those. It's just, I don't get it. She's like clay, the way that she just adapts to things. She molds herself into whatever is necessary for the task at hand. She's not leading the race, mind you, but she started in the back half of the field. She started in like 10th or so. She's already made her way to 2nd place. Basically embarrassing seasoned veterans of snow rallies like Sammy Rantanen and Yuki Usuki. I'll do the same myself. I'll put myself in 4th place, just with better momentum to this long, sweeping right-hander. Because I'm just able to be more confident with the vehicle because I've got more traction, I got more ground clearance, I have a lot of horsepower. This thing was a modified trophy truck. It's meant to be taking really big hills like it's nobody's business. What is with me and like it's nobody's business today, I don't know, but especially this front stretch. If a little wider, Yuki would be toast. But I'd rather not run a guy over. So I'm gonna brake slowly and carefully and just kind of sneak my nose in there, make him freak out a little bit. He has to give me the space, otherwise he's just being a dick. And that puts me into 3rd place on lap 4, not 4th place on lap 3rd. That's not how numbers work. That DRS is a thing, but that doesn't seem like the greatest idea, I must be honest. My dad's taking a very different approach to pretty much every corner, and based on the fact that he's leading by this much, it must be working. That back end is out. One group of vehicles of this race does not favor, though, is rear-wheel drive cars. There were 3 of them in this event, and they are all way in the back, along with Noir. I'm not really sure what went wrong here. We are currently looking at I'm actually going to pause the race and, yeah, really good job there, me. So yeah, my dad wins the race. He got a good 3 seconds advantage. He won by a solid 3 seconds, even though Riho ran a faster lap on lap 3. She just had nothing to offer that Subaru at the end. I'll round out the podium, so it's probably among some of the first times that me and my dad have been on the podium together. But, we are currently looking at one of the new cars from this race. The only new one, for that matter. Camera, come on! There we go. Derek De La Cruz with an unfinished livery, I think. It's missing a couple of logos near the rear fenders there. He is driving a Richard Petty reference with his own 68 Charger brought to the table. And it didn't do too well. This is his first off-road class event, and I don't really feel like this was the best time to pick for a debut. Especially not when his teammate wasn't even here. But nonetheless, that has been quite a first race. It's more of a visual spectacle than anything here, Lake Louise, but it's nice to finally be able to actually do some snow racing 105 weeks into the running of this series. So, it's worth it for that alone. And the beat goes on, we head back to tarmac roads for episode 4. We head to the circuit of Spa. And yes, I have switched to the previous microphone for comparison's sake. Even the comments, all 2 of you who routinely comment on my videos, can tell me which one sounds better. I know this one has better audio quality on my end, but it is a little quiet and can pick up background noise pretty badly. So, you know, we'll play through this race here, race 4 of week 105, episode 105. And, you know, make the comparison. And we are green for the spa day of week 105. The top category will, no, I mean, it's pretty much necessary for making decently quick laps around this track. Pager has completed the front end damage arrow, or front arrow damage speed run, already having damaged his car at one turn into the race. Barbara Page is the POV driver, as she's almost forced completely off the road at Eau Rouge by some careless driving from Pager, as if he's already not done enough of the— oh my word, cutting through traffic, making up a lot of places with the really good run from Eau Rouge and Radeon, passing the half of the field in just one sector, and that looks kind of funny behind her. Looks like a starting grid, like we're doing the world's fastest rolling start. Down into Rivage, I think this corner is called. I used to know. There's one that's literally called No Name, and I can't remember if that was it or if this is No Name. Oh, a bit of understeer from the Corvette. Keeps the car pointed the right direction though, which is the important thing. I can't really tell if that was actually understeer or if she was trying to give Milo a lot of space. That corner is, you know, it does cause a lot of understeer, as we obviously just saw. Oh my god, oversteer this time, and she saves it again. I think Barbara might have known that was coming, just the way that she got out of Puhan there. Milo's car is battered as he makes his way ahead of Terrence Blackpool for the moment, whom he got into to make the pass work. And now Blackpool's gonna just run Barbara off the racetrack. Alright, and Barbara has no choice but to rejoin into Shaughnessy, as her car isn't really under her control at that point. Blackpool's probably lucky. I think if he'd done that to anybody else, he'd be getting payback coming his way, but Barbara, among everybody here, is one of those who doesn't like to do that. Let's go down the inside like nothing even happened. Still get shoved off, or squeezed at the apex. What is going on there? My god. Now there's the procession of past the field with damage on lap 1. And I mean, Barbara is included in that, but she's electing to not pit. I know she notices the damage, because she's having to turn her wheel like that to go in a straight line, but I don't know if she particularly cares or what. That was harrowing just to watch. The car almost let go on the way into Eau Rouge, but she still gets the better run on Kawakuta and into the top 5, even with a damaged vet. After a bit of a cutaway for background noise, we rejoin Barbara Page. She's now caught up to the back of 4th place Reiko Mishima in her F40, right around the outside of the baby blue race car. Guys remember chrome blue. Now she's stuck behind a bit of traffic as Jeremy Chu and Francesca Ferdinand, oh my god, I hate saying all those names. Barbara gets around the outside of the Viper. Nice camera. I'd like to be looking at the car, thank you. What's that about? Some Project Cars 2 trackside cameras going on there. I guess Barbara passed Francesca there. You couldn't really tell, but as we are about halfway through the race, Brian Ice is currently your leader. He's trying to sort of pseudo-compensate for the fact that he could not get it done at Tokyo earlier in the week. But he's going to have another challenger, as in spite of suspension damage, Barbara is closing in pretty fast. You can see the lap time difference there. I think Ice was taking a pretty conservative lap. Barbara ran a 2:21.9. I don't see anybody else even really in the 220s at all. Ice ran a 2:28.9. That was the fastest lap other than Barbara's, and that was still 7 seconds slower. I'm not fully convinced Barbara is human. She's gonna go for the move on the Murcielago, go later on the brakes, and Ice just doesn't even fight. He just tucks in behind. He does not see a point in trying to keep this C7 at bay. He thinks about capitalizing on a bit of understeer from the Corvette, but he just can't. He does not, and he will not. Clouds are rolling in above, but from what I remember, this race had no mention of rain, at least not during the runtime. By the looks of it, probably just after the checkered flag, were I to guess, but there was none during the runtime of the event proper. And yeah, Barbara's starting to drive away. Imagine what she'd be doing if she wasn't having to nurse that car damage. If she's already... What the hell? The field is very spread out at the moment. We have Shaughnessy leading a train of a few cars, but that's really the only set of cars that are even near each other. The top 9 are on their own little individual areas, really. Especially the top 7, almost in a completely different sector from the rest of the running order, and I think that's because everybody except for the top 7, much like Tokyo earlier in the week, everybody outside of the top 7 has had damage dealt to their car at some point during the race. Except for Barbara, obviously, but you know, she's just acting like the damage isn't there, even though it very obviously is there. But based on the lap time she's running, it doesn't seem to be slowing her down much. A 2:20.5. That's the kind of lap you'd get from a GT3 car, and I suppose that makes sense, but still. You know, it makes sense because there are literally GT3 cars in this category. Example, Bergstrom. The entire 4th lap was rather uneventful. Barbara continued to hold on to this lead as it stood. And now is just a couple of turns away from basically nursing a nursing a wounded Corvette to a race victory here from Spa. Right front suspension damage could not hold her back. Barbara Page comes across the start-finish line, winning from Spa. For the 2nd time this week, Brian Ice will be granted 2nd place. And Jeremy Chu, who doesn't really show up too often here in the Challenge Series, certainly not outside of the Tokyo Expressway races, will grab a solid 3rd position finish. And the top 7 are all kind of near each other as the only cars in the race that avoided damage during the runtime. I'm really seeing a pattern I'm not really a big fan of if the series is starting to get more like races of attrition. I didn't know I was in ARC. Oh, did I say that out loud? We are here at the final race. The roulette round here takes us to Deep Forest Raceway. And sort of the ultimate culmination of the cars that were unable to debut in earlier races in the episode, there are a few new vehicles to show up here as well. Since this is probably one of the very few weeks where we had no dedicated 675 class race, as the time frame for that was instead taken up by the off-road event at Lake Louise. But at any rate, that just means there's going to be a lot of them here at the roulette race at Deep Forest. Yeah, we already covered that, Riker. At night. It's kind of the same feeling, just repeat the same specified adjectives over and over again until everybody gets the point. Hey, in case you didn't know, we're at Deep Forest. The roulette race, which in case you weren't aware, is taking place at Deep Forest, is green. Why am I the way that I am? I don't know. We head into turn 1, Ellie with the higher category Cayman already taking the lead. And Maki, who's in an even higher class, Murcielago, is set to do kind of the same thing, but I'm gonna get ahead of her. Never mind, I'm on the wrong lane. I'm understeering, as a matter of fact. This S14 has not been my best friend lately. I will not even try to hide that. It seems like it wants to kill me, more often than not. I already have enough things that seem like that is the case. I don't need my cars doing it too. I'm really thinking about just retiring this thing before it gets trashed. But nonetheless, yeah, the roulette race, somewhere in this mess of vehicles we have our POV driver, one Nico Yazawa, in the previously demonstrated Lexus LFA, which I had to hesitate to call the LMAO, weaving in and out of traffic, to make up places on the back straightaway. Gas. Contact ahead. As we see... we see about 3 of the new cars in this shot, all belonging to drivers we are already familiar with. There are no new drivers. The only new driver of the week is Montgomery Jensen here, and he brings another new vehicle to the table in the form of a Carson Annihilator. If you had the Nakamura SI7 earlier in the week, now he has the Carson Annihilator, which, not gonna lie, it looks oddly like a Dodge Charger to me. Speaking of Dodge Chargers, that's one of the other new cars. I mean, if there's a bunch of Dodge Chargers suddenly circulating, you can almost bet that Tyler McIntosh is gonna want in on it. As a known not really obsessed. As a known fanboy of the Dukes of Hazzard, he's gonna jump at the chance to drive a Dodge Charger. But being that it's the 68 model, not 69, he doesn't bother making it look like the General Lee, instead opting for kind of something like a NASCAR-ish livery, more than anything. It's in the 600 category and is currently leading said class. Where's the next one? Oh, yeah, well, the Carson Annihilator, that's in 675, and it's actually, I think, second last of that category at the moment. Thomas O'Reilly has a Mercedes 190E, and while that might seem kind of out of nowhere, it is, but it also isn't. You know, his one DTM championship came while driving a 190E, but then relations with Mercedes kind of turned sour pretty quickly when he elected to drive for Ford in a different series in the off-season of DTM. And Mercedes was like, oh, it's a conflict of interest, and sacked him over it. So he has a 190E that he ended up finding, I guess. I don't know how the hell he got his hands on this thing, but he got it, and he basically did the whole thing of, I'm going to copy you, but I'm going to change it so nobody knows I copied from the team that he won that championship with, who got all salty when he decided to drive a Ford Mondeo somewhere else. Then we have Mika Harris. I know how, but it's still crazy to think that there is now a Ford GT40 racing in the Challenge Series. Brian Ice has money, for anybody who somehow didn't already know that. We'll check back in with our onboard driver. Yeah, Mika. Yeah, what? Yeah! Nearly runs Thomas O'Reilly over there at the braking zone, trying to get ahead of the Carson Annihilator. I was going to say who names the car something that foreboding, but then remember there's a car called the Mercury Cougar Eliminator, which has very much the same feeling to it. Anywho, She's trying to pick her way through the rest of the 675 class cars. The GT40 is leading that category at the moment. And then she must face the top 4. I expect Maki to be taking the lead away here. That Murcielago is one of only 2... Oh my god. One of only 2 cars, or 3 cars, excuse me, in its category. Myself being the other, along with Akira Regai back here. And the 962 that's struggling to make its way past cars 2 classes below it because it has so little horsepower. But its cornering speed is the advantage area. Doesn't help him right now though, as he's currently being embarrassed by 190Es, 350Zs, and, you know, everything else. Take your pick what you'd like to point out there. Wow, we found the noise almost as high-pitched Nico's singing voice. The engine of her car. Oh my lord. You will hear this car seconds before you ever see it. Believe me you. Believe you me, however that weird mannerism goes. He's caught up to the back of Stephanie and myself. Stephanie is not even in the same category as me, nor is Nico. So the fact that they're both catching up to me is kind of disconcerting. And Nico's gonna go for a gap that I didn't really leave, and nearly wreck me in the process. Wasn't really the biggest fan of that, I must be honest, but I had bigger fish to fry. I was trying to keep Stephanie behind me. And Nico was already basically out of my sight before I could even think twice about what had just happened. But our other teammates, Ellie and Maki, are some ways away, and Maki's in a car even higher class than, you know, than Ellie's and Nico's, but she already passed me, so the precedent is set that she can, and possibly will, pass 750 class machinery in this LFA. The speed differential, holy shit. A car tuned for cornering grip versus a car tuned for top speed. And the difference is staggering, I must admit. That was a relatively clean pass. I don't know why she couldn't pass me like that. I mean, I know why, because... Jesus! Yeah, not tuned for cornering grip, as that is made very abundantly clear by that behavior coming from the Lexus. Skip ahead to exiting the hairpin to begin lap 5 soon enough. Nico takes a bit of grass and is not prepared for Maki to take that final corner so conservatively and just about sends her to the junkyard. She manages to just barely get stopped in time, but I don't think Nico liked the way that was orchestrated there. I don't think I would have, personally. And I'm not the one that almost ran her teammate over earlier in the race. Around the outside of the Lamborghini. And forcing Maki to check up on exit as she squeezes her out wide of the exit. Not really bad driving, but that is just kind of rude to do to a teammate, you know? That's the kind of thing that Mercedes-Benz or Mercedes F1 team drivers do to Red Bulls and Ferraris. Nico gets very fishtaily out of there. And there. Clearly, she's still adjusting to the sheer power band of the LFA. Is she blocking Maki? She was. Maki will not be deterred and gets back ahead of the Lexus, but then bottoms out at the apex of the hairpin. Doesn't really matter. She still returns to the race lead despite her car having some understeer moments. Back around the outside. Oh, contact. Oh god. Okay, now Nico's definitely not happy. Probably didn't like being blocked all the way down the front straightaway. We'll actually get another look at that as we head into turn 1. We'll look at this from how Maki saw it. Inside, outside, inside, having to let off, and then she gets there, but Nico made 3 different moves on the straightaway. Now back to present day. We should be looking at roughly 2 to go here from Deep Forest. Because again, I apparently can't seem to stop reminding you, as the viewer, that we are in fact at Deep Forest. You could just give Maki the bumper. Maki nearly turns her there. What was that interaction? Okay, no, there was no contact, but it was enough to sort of surprise Maki. And then Nico she just kind of slid over on her. Maki could have went off there, but she didn't have any reason to. You're kind of racing her like a dick, Nico, and you kind of deserve to nearly get spun out there. Okay. I'm running back here in 5th place all my own. I wasn't aware of any of this happening, and Ellie wasn't close enough to see it either. More blocking from the Alexis driver. Yep, hanging inside. Up, outside, up. She does eventually choose her line by the braking zone, but still, you're not really supposed to do that to anybody, much less a teammate. Maki does not bottom out this time. Oh, there's a blue flag car ahead, and oh, it's their teammate Kotori running last in the bottom category. Not great. not very great. Actually bumps into her teammate just to get... Oh, God. She had to move Kotori aside with her bumper. Lap car do her right. You know, it's your job to find your way around cleanly. Oh, dear Lord. Okay, yeah, Maki had enough. Alright. We crest the hill here. Nico drives relatively normally, and Maki just ships it in there and turns her. And wrecks her. Yeah, that DNF'd the car. It didn't really total it, but took it out of the contention, and Nico blares her horn in pure rage. I did notice that, but I didn't know. I was not aware of how we got there. Now I am, and I really don't know how to feel. I feel like Nico kind of forgot what the word team was. There's no I in team, but there is I in Nico. And in Maki. And in Ellie. And Kotori. What the hell? There's no I in Riker either, in case anybody was asking. Although there usually is, not in my case. So that's gonna be interesting. I don't like where this is going.